All right, welcome to Stomp Strong Stories. I'm Stomp. This is Sod. We are in episode 3, and we're just going to get into it. The thing we were going to do today was talk about some questions we had a few weeks ago. We'll get to that at the end, maybe. We're in the middle of the craziest thing that's ever been going on in time, and this is Sunday, the fifth day of the riots. And they're all over the country at this point. And we're in San Antonio area of Texas. And I'm going to just tell you my take on when I saw it. Sure. And how I thought about it. And my just thoughts. Okay, so I see it blowing up online like 4 or 5 days ago, early in the day. And I don't watch it, and I don't watch it. And I see it a few times, and it's hitting pretty hard. And then I watch it, and I see it for like 2 minutes. And then I find the whole video, and it's like 10 minutes long, right? And it's crazy. Sure. And you're watching a dude act like a robot as he's killing somebody in front of you, and you have a little dude who's directing traffic for him essentially and keeping people away. Sure. And you don't see the other 2 dudes on him. And when you find out later that there was 4 dudes, and none of the 3 stopped him, and obviously in my mind, this dude straight up killed him. Okay, and why I think it's murder and not just manslaughter or something. If he has any training at all and he's been in any fights at all, you know that you can't do anything to the neck. Right. The neck is the no-go. It's the exact choke zone. It's where you got to be real careful. It's as a bouncer, I don't ever remember in 12 years of ever being on top of dudes, right, face down, in the gutters, just like that. Not with 4 dudes. Sometimes with none. Sometimes with just 1, no cuffs ever. Right. I don't remember ever doing that. Now, I did put a knee on someone's waist all day long sometimes. Right. Grind them into the ground, run their chest into the ground, full on north-south on top of somebody, headlocks all day long, all kinds of crazy shit. Never have I ever controlled a dude's neck that long, let alone 10 minutes. Never have I been on anyone 10 minutes. In 12 years of bouncing. Right. Never have I been on top of anyone for 10 minutes. Right. I don't think anything more than 3 minutes is a real stretch of a normal altercation when I go to the ground, which I never do because the time I was a bouncer, I was 550 pounds, and I was not getting on top of nobody like that because I would hurt him. So when I watch that dude do that, that's a very hard thing for me to watch for 10 fucking minutes. Right. So I have friends that are cops. Your son's a friend of mine, he's a cop. I get stuff for policemen all the time. I mean, I'm a knife guy, right? Cops love the same shit we all love, right? Normal people. So I can't even talk to my cop buddy for a day, and then I talked to him 2 days ago about it, and I go, "Have you seen it?" And he goes, "I haven't watched it, dude." Right. And I go, "Okay, well, you need to because this is my take on this is crazy." Yeah. So this dude's so used to doing whatever he wants to do in a power move or whatever you want to call it, that he killed somebody in front of a bunch of people filming him like a robot, essentially. I remember, I only saw the whole tape once. I remember, I think he pulled out his pepper spray once to keep somebody from getting on him as he was doing it. When he's necking, that's the only movement I remember him doing. Was pulling out pepper spray to maybe get somebody and warn them to get off me, get away from me, as they were approaching, right? So, as I see it, I'm raging. I'm thinking to myself, okay, do I shoot this motherfucker? If I have a gun on me and I'm on the side of the street, do you pull a gun out and shoot this cop? And knowing there's cops everywhere and who gives a fuck? Right. Because he is murdering the dude. Right. So do you put a hole in the cop? Do you draw down on him? Do you tackle him? And I'm watching them and I go, I understand why they're not. Right. That's anarchy. They're the goddamn authority. Yeah. He's telling you not to. They're telling you not to get the goddamn fucking...
Because if you intervene to save the man, who you can see is
dying,
being murdered, then they'll kill you. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, like...
And at that point...
Right.
That's a decision you got to make.
Yeah, like...
Because you're watching some dude lose his life.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like for me, and for you, I think our perspective is unique in where, like our personal lives, your wife is African American. My first wife was African American. My son, who's a San Antonio police officer, he is African American.
Yeah.
So, you know, my father was a police officer. My son is a police officer.
It's so crazy.
I see the police side, not in this murder, but I'm on the police side.
Sure.
For general purposes, because they are the good guys. But at the same time, as the father of an African American son, I'm concerned about African Americans being murdered by police officers. You know, like that's a concern to me. You know, like people will say, well, you know, like African Americans get murdered by other African Americans all the time. Yeah, but those African Americans that are murdering them, they're not on the taxpayer's roll. They're not the law. They're the criminals. So criminal acts happen all the time. But I don't want to ever see criminal acts happen on behalf of law enforcement.
Ever.
That's not what the police are there for. They're not
It's
there.
the opposite.
They're not the judge, jury, executioner.
No.
And they're supposed to treat everybody equally. You know, everybody fairly. And so it's a concern. Like for me, you know, I wore my son's shirt today, San Antonio Police Department, because really I almost did not want to do this podcast because here right now is not where I want to be. But it's the only place I can be. Because where I want to be is there's a protest going on in downtown San Antonio. Now last night's protest, they threw stones at the cops. They surrounded a police. One cop didn't have his headgear on, so he got hit in the head, severely injured by a stone. They surrounded a police car, breaking in the windows, trying to get the gun. The cops are trying to help this police officer. And then there's a guy out there, you know, and it didn't get reported. I haven't seen it reported in the press, but I've had a couple of police officers tell me there was a guy out there with what they believe was an AK-47, but he was in the middle of the crowd. He wasn't close to the police, so they couldn't really get to him. But Texas is an open carry state, so it was legal. But where it got dicey was the stones are being thrown at the cops, and people are throwing and shooting fireworks at the cops. Now the police have to determine, are we being shot at?
Sure.
And should we return fire? And how many innocent people would die if they did return fire?
Dude, little caveat, right? You're getting right to where it's at now. The first day you're talking about, okay, I'm upset because a guy got killed, and everybody's upset.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the cops to have...
Absolutely.
Okay, let me finish where I was at. I called the guys day 2, my cop buddy, and I go, hey man, the only way I see this ending is you've been a cop forever.
Right.
You're the same age as the dude who did it. 46, 47. You're the standard in your department, I would hope.
Yeah.
You're my friend.
Right.
I look at you as a person I love.
Right.
I look at you as a nice guy doing right. So I hope you're the standard in your department. And you need to go to work tomorrow and look at your people who work with you and say, hey, motherfucker, if I see you rough somebody up, I'm going to report you.
Right.
From today on,
Sure.
if I see anything that is at all crazy, weird, suspect, mean, hell, let's just say mean.
Yeah.
If you're being mean to a citizen, I'm going to report you.
Sure.
And I expect you to do the same about me.
Right.
And this, only way this stops is if we police each other. Because there's 3 dudes that could have stopped that. There's 3 dudes that could have made this a $20 case over $20.
Sure.
And it could have been totally done. And this dude could be doing whatever he's doing and living his life like a normal person. And there's a bunch of cities. My hometown, Tampa area, took 40 buildings got looted, 7 or 5 got burned down, or something like 3 got burned down, and that's just in one night, and that's in one little area, and I'm telling you, man, you can do this. I watched a video today of a guy in Texas breaking into looked like a Chinese market or something. And they're going in through the window, and all of a sudden someone lets loose with like 30, 40 rounds of 9mm.
Right.
And then everybody runs.
Sure.
And if you think you're going to keep doing this to people's businesses, and there's not going to be people sitting out front shooting you,
Right.
That's gonna happen. And if you think you can take it to the neighborhood or something, I mean, it would just become so ridiculous. It'd be so insane.
And that's when we have anarchy. You know, because you know what I was alluding to is like where I want to be right now. It's like right now there's a follow-up protest in downtown San Antonio. My son, he's down there keeping the peace. I, as a father who loves his son with all my heart, more than I love myself, I love my son. I want to be there to protect my kid. You know, I mean, granted, he's a grown man. You know, he's 27. He just turned 27 a couple days ago.
No.
I want to be there to protect my kid. But I know if you had military guys like me going downtown, you know, to protect their families or, you know, whatever we call ourselves doing. You know, like, I did 33 years in the U.S. Navy. I was trained in combat tactics by the Navy and the Marine Corps. I'm very proficient at the rifle and the handgun. I train with them all the time. And I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If I saw somebody throw a stone at my child, it would be a bad outcome. So then I wouldn't be helping.
No,
I would be a distraction.
You're in the way, yeah.
Which is why I'm here with you instead
yeah.
of downtown with my child who I'm worried about.
I think at some point, if you're outside doing this type of mess still, after what we've seen for 5 nights, there's going to be, I would not, and I'm not saying this is a good thing. Right. I'm not saying they should do this. I'm saying they're going to have to become very heavy-handed. The idea of being nice through this is not going to happen forever. You're not going to keep doing this in the next week. You're not going to keep breaking into buildings and looting shit. It's not going to happen.
And where the chaos is, for the breaking point, is the way police departments are set up. You know, like the city of San Antonio has roughly 2 million people in the surrounding areas, but they only have 2,000 police officers. You know, give or take a few. So that's one cop for every 100,000 people. You know, when you do the math.
Sure.
Of course, the police can't manage. One cop can't manage 100,000 people, but that mathematical formula is done on the fact that the majority of citizens are not lawbreakers. You know, maybe only 1%. Well, now that's a much more manageable number. You know, but when large numbers start breaking, you know, when the police are outnumbered, and then large numbers resort to violence and criminal activity, that's when you start to get anarchy. And then people are like, well, you know, what do I do? And then like you had police departments like in Minnesota where they just stopped trying to protect the businesses. And
that went on during Corona too. They
stopped
it during Corona.
And then they allowed, you know, like the protesters to burn that precinct to the ground, which I've never seen in my. I've been alive for 52 years.
How crazy was that?
I've never seen that.
I watched
not
that
on American soil. I've seen it in other countries, but on American soil,
I watched that till 4 a.m, man.
Nobody stopped it, and the protesters.
You know what was even crazier about that to me? It's okay. So I go on Instagram. I'm getting. I'm looking at all this, right? I'm not working right now. I'm home. Right. I'm saturated with this media. I'm all over it.
Yeah.
I see Instagram, and there's a lady at the cop's house with a bunch of protesters, and there's like 300, maybe 200 cops, 5 deep, around the dude's house.
Right.
They abandoned the police department to go to the dude's house to save him.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, right? Okay, we watch a guy kill. Yeah, you got a smile on your face, right? So we watch a guy kill somebody, kneeling on his neck for 10 minutes. 3 of them, he's dead.
Sure.
And he's still on the neck.
Right.
3. It's so insane.
And he's handcuffed
It's
during the whole
so
process,
insane.
which is just
it's so
sense.
fucking crazy. Yeah. So we watch that. Then you let them go back to work. Like they finish their shift or whatever. They then find it hits the media. It starts blowing up. They lose their jobs instantly that day. So 4 dudes get fired instantly. Sure. We'll say within the first hour that I knew about it. Okay, 4 dudes get fired instantly. You haven't fucking put nobody in cuffs yet. You haven't fucking realized there's gonna just for let's talk about common sense. For common sense reasons. You see the video. I saw the video. You saw the video. Everybody saw the video. You know 4 dudes were involved. You know one of those dudes might have murdered that dude. For sure manslaughter. No doubt. Absolutely. I mean 0 doubt it's manslaughter. So he's going to jail. Eventually, no matter what, this motherfucker's going to jail. You let him go home?
That's crazy.
There's nobody that walks away from that. All 4 of them motherfuckers never see the light of day again, in my book. The whole country looks at them dudes. Every cop needs to go, damn, they knew those 4 names need tattooed in the middle of the fucking manual. Remember this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. Same way I got to remember that teacher in Tampa who was hot that banged all the kids. And it had all the... Okay, so I got to remember those guys' names because they defame my goddamn profession.
Right.
Okay, so these dudes we remember forever. Hall of Fame, most dumbass fucking asshole goddamn cops on the fucking planet, right? Biggest dicks ever, sadist fucks, followers. Let's call them sheep. They're following the wolf. The wolf's on top, killing the prey. There's 3 dudes following them around. Let's see what it is. Yeah. These guys are bitches, man. Straight pussies. The 3 dudes that are holding the legs and directing traffic. Straight up. Okay. Okay. So we watched that. You don't put them in jail. You wonder why there's fucking riot. Of course, there's going to be protests. First day, conspiracy theory type shit. Might as well. We're just talking. You see the Umbrella Man. This dude goes up and breaks the discount auto glass. This is before it's crazy. This is in the middle of the daylight. So it looks like it's a cop from the county over. I don't know if it is. They say it's not. But I've seen the pictures of the cop and I've seen Umbrella Man. It's the same dude to me. It looks just like him. Okay, whatever. Okay, so now we got martial law breaking off because maybe it's easier to distract somebody and get this bitch going. Let's get this bitch going. Now, 5 days into it, you're seeing pamphlets and stuff, people getting paid. It's for sure Antifa's paying one side of it, as far as I can tell. Who knows? I'm sure the other side's paying too. The conflict and chaos is great for somebody. It's not for us.
For the media, it's great.
It's not for us. It's not for us.
It sells like hotcakes. But what I think is I think the reaction has been so powerful and so violent. One, because you have a historical problem between African Americans not having a good outcome when they have encounters with police.
Sure.
I mean, we're not just talking about a few years. We're talking about
that's
like
forever. Most
famous letter Dr. King wrote was from a jailhouse cell. Who arrested him and put him in that jail? So that's
history. That is the history.
Conflict. Yeah.
Oppression is the history. It is what it is.
So you have that, but at the same time, you have this lockdown where the past 2 months, businesses have been forced closed, people have lost their jobs, they're out of money, and they're being told by governors and mayors who prior to the pandemic lockdown, they didn't even know their name. Like, I'll be honest with you, I have a business in San Antonio. Until the lockdown happened, I did not know the name of the mayor of San Antonio. I do now because he affects me. He determines when I get to open up my business and under what circumstances. So now I know his name. Prior to that, I didn't know his name. And on top of that, I still can't name one of the city council members.
I don't think we've ever really even talked politics.
Right. And we don't, but now we're concerned. But, it's like, hey, these guys are really impacting me.
Fierce.
These governors, and then
how do they make the decision? Why is it affecting me?
Yeah.
Why don't I have anything to say about it?
And
why do I know his name?
Now, if we was in China or if we was in Russia and they said, hey, we're locking down society for 2 months, well, they're more accustomed to that. But we're in America. It's like, hold on, we're all about freedom. We're all about the First and Second Amendment. We're about all the amendments. And it's like, you're telling me, somebody who I didn't even know your name, a few days ago, is now telling me, hey, you're staying. And then they keep getting case after case of where the lockdown occurs, but then the governor or the mayor or these other political figures, regardless of what political party they're in, they aren't obeying their own lockdown. So it's like, here's a set of rules for you Americans.
And then us.
But us aristocrats, we got our own set of rules.
Well, I mean, it's a weird thing. What you can get away with, where's the standard? Where is the standard? So that we know the standard of Americans. The standard in politics is garbage. We know that.
Sure.
We know we're hoping the standard. I have seen a lot of guns pointed at me by police for a lot of different reasons. Most of the time, it was not necessary, in my opinion.
Sure.
I think they're scared. I think when they see somebody my size walking toward them, or whatever the circumstances, or in the car, getting out of the... I used to get out of the car all the time as a kid.
when they pull me. I never want to be in my car, near my car, looking at my car. I don't like people looking at my shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to be near. I want to be
Right.
near you. I don't know why, right? I'm a little paranoid, I'd say, right? So when I look at a cop, I'm scared. I've had guns put on me a lot, so I get a little nervous, right? I'm thinking they're looking for something. They're looking for something to get on me. They pulled me over for speeding or whatever, or this or whatever, and I'm doing this, or I shouldn't be at the beach now, and whatever. And they see me, and it becomes a power thing, and it happens regular for me. I don't know if it's where I'm from. I don't know if it's all the times bouncing, because it happened 3 or 4 times bouncing. I don't know, okay? So I am nervous and don't necessarily like cops. I'll just say it. I think a lot of times they're in a power trip. I've seen it. I've seen it enough to know that I don't like the idea that they have it and they can use it and they don't necessarily do it right all the time. I've seen it. I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida. We had 2 of these race riots back in the day. You would see crazy shit all the time. I have seen this. This is nothing I haven't seen. My wife is African American. She's lived a really good life. I can't get her to take a knife with her when she's running, right? Because she's never had a lot of chaos in her life. And I have. So I'm like, hey man, take the gun, take the knife, take this. Let's do this. Let's go to the range. Let's shoot. You know, I'm at the range all the time with you.
Right.
I am not military at all. I can shoot better than most military, most cops, most anyone. So, but I'm sort of paranoid. So, and I'm always looking for the discrepancy in power. I can find it. I can see it, and I don't like when people abuse it. I'm a very anti-bully. So I'm a little nervous of the cops, right? So the cops have to do a little better policing themselves.
And I think I think the problem is sometimes the cops they end up getting the brunt of people's dissatisfaction because they are required to enforce the rules that, like if the mayor of your city says, hey, no businesses can open, or we're on a lockdown quarantine. Well, the mayor, he or she ain't going out
right
to arrest people.
No, I know it's a hard job.
They send the cops to do that, and sometimes, the cop is doing his job. He's there to enforce it. If you ask most cops, they're like, "Do you like sitting on the side of the road giving people speeding tickets?" Almost every cop I've talked to, that's their least favorite thing because they don't know what's going on in that car when they walk up to it. So if it was just up to them. And once again, I haven't done no national survey of all police officers. I'm just talking about the police officers that I know.
Yeah, all opinions are me and Sad's only.
Right. Would tell you that's their least favorite is walking up into a car because they don't know what's going on with that car. Like if somebody's going to shoot them through the car, what kind of things could happen. So that's their least favorite thing to do, but they're required to do it. And that puts them in conflict with, your everyday citizen. So it's a very tough position to be in.
Yeah, it's difficult because it's a standard, like I was telling you earlier, like maybe we just got to think about, even if this sucks, even if this day is horrible, like no matter what, man, I'm supposed to be nice to the kids.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be, and I got the worst ones on paper in the world, right? So, it can get really crazy sometimes.
Sure.
I mean, they're trying you every day, all day long.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can't come back at them like that. So what I'm trying to say is, the standard's already there. They're supposed to do this. It's already written up. They know they're not supposed to. Cops not gonna go do blow and like smoke some crack and go fuck some whores in the back and go make us pay off money and he's not gonna go to work doing criminal shit. Hopefully,
yeah.
Right. So, but dude, they might step on some dude's neck every once in a while because they're pissed off, or take an extra couple of shots on somebody, or not see the dude a different way the next time he sees him because they arrested him 6 times before. Well, you got to arrest him the 7th time the same way.
Right.
You can't beat his ass just because he's a douchebag.
Right.
You can't have that opinion no more. You got to have a standard.
It's a tough.
Have to. That's what I mean. It's going to have to be self-regulated.
And I think it's even past self-regulation is very important because, like, on this recent killing, it's not just the cop that had his knee on his neck. It's every cop that was there that watched it.
Yeah.
Because all of them took an oath to do a job, and they all failed to do it. So it wasn't just one bad cop. Every cop on that scene was a bad cop. The same thing back in the 80s when the Rodney King beating was caught on VHS. Or somebody with a camcorder caught it. You know, they only indicted 4 of the cops, and then ironically, none of them were convicted. But
yeah, and LA burned down.
There was like 20 cops on the scene that watched that beating, and not one of them stepped forward and said, "Dude, stop." You know, but if a cop was standing there watching, say, the Crips or the Hells Angels do the same kind of beating, would they have intervened?
Of course.
Which is like, yeah, sure, like,
Of course.
that's crazy, of course. But they was watching their own do it, and then they somehow decided, oh, we're just not going to intervene.
That's why it's so strange. This guy's such a fucking sick fuck.
Yeah,
Like, he's not even thinking about the consequences,
Right.
the people filming it.
Because until camcorders, well, first camcorders, because before that it was like, oh, you're just making it up. You know, and now with these phones,
Sure.
it's like, oh no, we didn't make it up. It's on video. I can see
Yeah,
exactly
it's gonna
what happened.
it's gonna get really like Russia, man, where everyone's
Sure.
like walking around with a GoPro soon.
Right, and
Because
that's so
it's like I need to be
Yeah.
badged, you need to be
Right.
badged, you might be looting my house, I might be shooting you in my front yard, I might have to explain this to somebody. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, is this really getting this crazy?
But I think the solution is the police need to hold their officers to the same standard that the military holds their personnel. Like, for instance, you know, like I mentioned before, I did 33 years in the U.S. Navy and retired honorably. But no matter what I did, if I was caught breaking the Geneva Conventions, they would have court-martialed me and discharged me, no matter how glorious or honorable of a record I had. And, for example, when I was in Iraq in 2003, I was with 1MEF, which stands for Marine Expeditionary Force. So I was there with 1MEF, and during the war, a lieutenant colonel had caught a guy that was setting up an ambush. And so I can't remember whether it was roadside bombs, but he was setting up an ambush. And the colonel made the decision to point a gun at that guy's head and then discharged a bullet next to his head. He didn't kill him.
Sure.
But through fear, that guy told the colonel where the ambush was. This action saved the lives of our soldiers. But nonetheless, we court-martialed him for that.
Sure.
Because
You can't do that.
it was a violation of the Geneva Conventions. It was a violation of our rules of engagement. Even though it had a great outcome, which was it saved American lives, he committed a crime, and we held him accountable. There was no, well, you know, look at this great outcome, or what a great career
Here's
he's
the
had,
problem, though.
so much sacrifice.
I think if a cop does commit a crime, they arrest him, right? So I'm talking to my buddy, and he's like, "Man, they're gonna get him as soon as they do an autopsy." And I'm like, "No, man, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
There's no autopsy. If you watch me step on someone's neck, you're gonna arrest me on the spot. You're not
Sure.
gonna prove I did it.
Right.
You're gonna present the evidence, put me in jail, and they prove it.
Right.
So what needs to happen is, these cops on that scene that day, the 2 guys on the legs go, "Hey, man, get off him.
Right.
It's done. Get off his neck. I got his legs.
Right.
I got his legs."
And he's handcuffed.
He's handcuffed. Get off him. I got his legs. He doesn't get off the legs. He doesn't get off his neck. Hey, man, get off him. Get off him. I got his neck. I got his legs. Get off him. He's handcuffed. He doesn't get off. Okay, now you get off his legs. Remove your buddy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay, maybe later on there's an investigation. No one thinks a crime went down. Maybe he went too rough. You write your report up exactly
Right.
how it happens as the cop. I told him to get off. I had to get up. Worked him off. I don't know why he wasn't getting off. I didn't ask him. You write it up as it happened.
Well, you just put him under arrest.
Oh,
It's like, dude,
but
put
if
him under
you,
arrest.
but yeah, if you see it or what, I know, but that's what has to happen. Right then, though.
Right.
Not-
Until that happens.
Not go to his house and protect him,
Right.
and then you lose the station.
Right.
It's the craziest shit in the world. You leave the station to protect the dude. You should put all 4 dudes in jail. Protect that.
Right. Because what I wonder is, like, I haven't
Why'd
read
they
up
ever
on it.
leave
It's
the
like,
why they ever leave the cop station?
how much evidence in other
Oh, it's
cases
all gone.
was destroyed
It's all gone.
by abandoning the station and letting them burn it to the ground?
Okay,
And did they take the weapons when they left?
Blocks
or
and
are
blocks
those
and
all
blocks of
distributed?
buildings are burned down. None of
Yeah,
it.
it's just
None of
crazy.
it's insane what's
Yeah.
going on right now, and it's not one city.
Right.
It's there's 10 cities on fire right now.
Oh man, all across the country it's spread. Like I didn't think it would spread to San Antonio. Like that it would turn out
who
to
would
be
have thought
so
it would be a
violent.
Texas thing?
Right.
So I'm watching the guys at the Alamo yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 4 dudes at the Alamo helping the cops.
Mm-hmm.
The other dudes are protesting. At some point, I watched the video. It's like a 13-second video. There's a cop in the background, picks a gun up off the ground and starts emptying it. Takes the mag out, clears it. I mean, fast. This isn't in the middle of craziness. People are pushing each other around. There's guns. So you're talking about what happens when you come to help your son, and I'm saying what happens when your 5 friends come to protect your pawn shop, and you're sitting out front, and these dudes come to break in, and you start ripping rounds off. There's people that ain't got tear gas, that ain't got cuffs, that ain't got this, that aren't cops, that are like, okay, the cops ain't here. I'm gonna protect my shit. So say, you know, I know you're gonna watch your business burn down and not even think about it. You got insurance and shit. Say your house is on that same block.
That's a different ball.
That's a different goddamn story. Say your wife's in a business. Say your wife had to go get something at the business, gets trapped at the business. Now you're both at the business and it's getting burned down. Different story. Now, you know what I mean? This gets really nasty, man. There's no good end to this. The people that don't want it to get nasty need to stay home. They need to stay home now because you've seen 4 days of it. It's not going to be. It ain't getting no prettier. It ain't getting no. It ain't about the dude dying now. It hasn't been about that in a little bit. Whatever's happening, it seems systematic. It seems organized. It seems like people want a wild, and nobody's going to take that long. If the cops can't protect you, people will figure out how to get protected.
And that's in states like Texas, where you can legally protect your home. And I think that would be something I would recommend to any of our viewers is don't just buy a firearm to protect your home or your business, but get some training and find out like what the rules of your state are. Like, in Texas we have the Castle Doctrine, although it doesn't, nowhere in Texas law doesn't say Castle Doctrine, but it's a common media term, the Castle Doctrine. It's sort of like stand your ground. Texas has a stand your ground, but it doesn't say that. It's just what the media calls it. But you need to make sure, before you start pulling bullets, that, hey, like, can I legally do this? Now, like for me, whether it's legal or not, if I'm protecting the life of my wife and kids,
it don't matter.
It doesn't matter. I would be rather, judged by 12 than carried by 6. That old saying. It's like,
sure.
But if it's like the business, like you burn my business to the ground.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I'm not taking somebody's life over this, and even if I didn't have insurance to repair it, it's not. I'm not going to take it that far. But if my family was in, and you're trying to burn it to the ground, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's getting really crazy because it's not. It's. Let's talk about answers. Let's talk about where it's not good. I've acknowledged. I've seen it myself. I've watched it. I've seen riots go down in my town twice. In a town you would think is nice, a little St. Pete, but it's an island. It's a peninsula on a peninsula, and nobody gets out of that little peninsula. So, and the cops were in. I don't know if they still are, but they were pretty rough in St. Pete. And I watched them, out in front of their police department taking a lot of grief last night and not doing anything. And I think a lot of cops have been very restrained in a lot of ways from what I've seen compared to what they're receiving. And it's just, it can't happen forever. It can't happen forever.
I just think, it's just, the police are like any other profession. Like one guy in the military who violates the Geneva Convention or does something horrendous it's not a reflection on everybody. Same thing with the police. It's not a reflection on all police officers. But we have to address those bad apples. We have to address them, and until we do, then we're going to have this kind of anarchy, and nothing good is going to come out of this.
And people are always oppressed. Like in the very first day, I'm watching like Native Americans up in Minneapolis, right? Like the Native Americans were there making a stand, like, hey. And then I watched some old Native American protests. My friend who's Native American sends me, and he's like, man, they've been talking about this shit since the 70s. This ain't nothing new. He goes, if you're not, people are being oppressed all the time. Everyone needs, like, man, I just try to I try really hard to be nice in my life. Not necessarily nice, but like nice. Like if I find out I do something wrong to somebody, man, I really try to go out of my way to make sure I learn from it. Like really not do it again. Not learn. Like this bothers me. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna call you and find out, and you know what I mean. I'm gonna try and make better and try to figure out where I did things wrong and how I've done things right. And you know, when I live that way, I think of myself as a not righteous guy, but a dude who's pretty confident in his moves and his decisions and how I think of things. I'm pretty confident in how I think. I think I'm trying to like portray like a certain image of positivity and you know, being a good person, but also not getting, you know, worked, and you know what I mean. When you do get worked, admit it, and how does this get? How do I do better from this? Like everything about me is talking about let's do this, the future, where's this going?
Yeah.
How do I destroy these dudes in tournaments? I haven't done 7 classes. I got my whole BJJ career planned out. You know what I mean? It's so crazy. You know what I mean? I think I'm very focused on shit. You know what I mean? Like focused. Because if I'm not, I'm destructive.
Mm-hmm.
I can be drinking, you know, 50 beers a night. You know, and I can be crazy. So, dude, this whole concept of being nice, man, you got to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not talking to Beth if I'm not nice to her. Like, there's no way I'm talking to her like the coolest chick in the world if I'm not nice to her. There's no way I get to hang out with you if I'm not nice. Oh, at least interesting and nice.
Sure.
I gotta be nice.
Right.
May not get to hang out if I'm just nice.
Right.
We gotta be interesting and nice, right? We're spending time, right? Like, so, you know, you gotta bring people to, like, you gotta bring substance to your work, man. So, like, as a cop, you go to work, like, with the idea of, like, you don't start that job to fucking beat the piss out of people, I'm hoping.
Right.
I hope you start that job because you want to help everybody, and you're trying to be a good person and maybe a hero type and do something with your life and be more than you thought you could be at making some money at the bank or a traditional inside job. Maybe you're a little active and you need to walk around a lot and be. Your son couldn't do much more than be a cop. I mean, he's always going. You know what I mean? He's always super fun. You know what I mean? Like you want that. You want that. The standard in 5 years of the cop is going to be crazy. To go into it now is insane. So the people they're going to get are going to be really wanting to be there for the right reasons, you would hope, right? So let's get back to that. Let's get back to some cops that ain't scared, man. Let's give them like a extra $1,000 a year if you get your blue belt. Like straight up, if you get certified a brown belt, you get $2,000 extra a year. If you're, you know, or something. If you can combat certification, extra certs that you pay at work to go train with the SWAT team, become that good with a gun that you never pull it out, or that good with your hands that you don't want to ever. Like, you walk up to 2 dudes fighting and you just tell them to stop fighting. You don't even have to like get on them because they know you're gonna come whoop their ass. I mean, like, have some presence about you or something. I mean, for fuck's sakes, man. Like, if like to be part of this job, like, shit, man. If you got combat duty and you know how to handle yourself under pressure, get an extra $20,000 a year, like straight up.
Yeah, but I just think
I don't know
that, you know, like, although a lot of military people successfully go into the law enforcement, you know, the combat experience isn't necessarily some, you know, like, it can be very, I think it can be very advantageous, but at the same time, it's that our cities, although they oftentimes seem like war zones, they're not war zones.
Sure.
And you don't want the military, you know, conducting, you know, war operations in your cities, which is why there's a law, you know, that says the U.S. military cannot, you know, enforce laws in our cities. You know, it's posse comitatus.
But I mean, a guy that's just not as worried about it.
Right. And, you know, yeah, you don't want them to be fearful, but at the same time, you want them to realize this is different. Police operations is totally different than military operations. Some skills will translate over, but not all. So, yeah, with the police, I just want to say that I think the police are they perform a great service to our country. They're absolutely essential.
Absolutely.
You know, any talk of like, hey, you know, we should just disband these police officers.
No, that's crazy.
What do you replace that with? Like,
yeah.
Somebody has to do this very tough job, and like, I couldn't do the job. Like, if you punch me, and then maybe I have to run 2 or 3 blocks to catch you. Once I catch you, even if I put you in handcuffs, you're gonna take some punches back.
That's the problem.
And that's the problem, because that's why I can't do that job. Because
okay, so how does anyone do it right? Because you're reasonable,
right? Yeah,
you're a nice guy.
I try to be, but you know, like, I understand So I understand the cop that just chased this dude for, 6 blocks.
Yeah.
He finally catches him, and he's got him, and he's like, he throws a couple extra punches. It's wrong, but I understand it.
So how do we get to the point, like through,
How do you overcome
through personal development,
like human nature? Because man, if you strike me, cut me, like for the cop here in San Antonio, they got hit in the head with a rock yesterday.
Yeah, how do you go to work
if
tomorrow?
If he could identify the dude that did it,
yeah.
Say you get hit in the head with a rock.
That's the problem.
You're bleeding.
You're looking at it from the cop's side. This
Would
makes
you
sense.
just arrest the guy?
No,
that's all you're legally supposed to do.
Yeah, that's
but
the issue.
Human nature is, I may have a permanent scar on my head or face. I don't know exactly where he got hit with the rock, and this guy did it. Am I going to give him a little extra, or am I just going to handcuff him?
Okay, so let's say that this guy goes into work. He's a total fucking Boy Scout 30 years ago when he started. This dude, the dude who murdered the guy.
Right.
Let's say he's normal dude. You start hearing about him from high school. Oh, he wanted to be a cop. He was patrol in 5th grade. He did everything right. He was hall monitor, Johnny Law.
Yeah.
He wanted to help everybody. Mm-hmm. He goes in to be a cop. He's nice. He's not Johnny Law. I want to kill everybody.
Yeah.
And then he starts working, and he works a couple years, and something happens, and he gets hit in the head with a rock in 1 year, and next year he gets kicked in the ass one day, and he gets tackled, and and he's working the South Side all the time, and it's the worst neighborhood in the world, and all of a sudden he starts looking at everybody as the same.
Right.
Like, okay, you live in this fucking shithole. I'm gonna have to fight you.
You can become.
I'm gonna have to fight you pretty soon. I might have fought this dude 5, 6, 7 times. I might have fought him 5, 6, 7 times.
Right.
So then I get out of the car, and when I see him, even before he talks, I just punch him in the mouth.
Yeah. It can happen.
That's totally normal.
I
bet you that's normal.
It's human nature. We want these cops
to do something that's impossible.
That would be so difficult. I mean, I would say most of them do it, but I understand.
Listen,
the anger issues. How could you not?
It's an impossible job.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Right.
But you have to look at your. If there's a cop watching this, you have to know it's impossible and say, listen, I have an exit plan. I have a friend I talk to at the end of the night. You can't be your wife. You can't tell her all this shit. Right. But maybe we have maybe we don't go drinking, but we do go running in the morning before the shift.
Right.
And we talk a little bit about how we're not going to do this. There has to be some type of daily drill to remind myself not to kill these fuckheads. I got to protect every day.
Right.
Because you have to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Things are burning down. Even if let's say that the catalyst was that, and it is the catalyst for the protests started out as a protest.
Right.
They have turned into riots. The action of one dude has turned into something that's insane.
Sure.
And 3 dudes not stopping them. And every cop in the world is going to see that picture of that dude's house surrounded by three layers deep of cops, and then the precinct burned down
to the ground.
To the ground. So we have seen insanity, and it's still going on right now.
Yeah, we had talked about before the podcast. Stomp asked me, "What you want me to play the?" the news coverage of the protest that's going on in San Antonio, and be like, no, because I wouldn't be able to talk about anything. Because my focus would be hey, is that my son in the picture? Yeah. Is things going okay? Because, and I think that's what we forget about sometimes with these police officers is that's somebody's son, that's somebody's husband, that's somebody's, or somebody's daughter.
Yeah, they are a microcosm of society, guys. Right. This is not them and us. It is not that, and it can't be that for them either.
Yeah, and they're doing a great
there's an us.
Service.
It's an us. There's no black and white. It's an us thing. You can't see things that way, man.
Right, and we just have to we have to maintain a standard, and we have to correct discrepancies when they happen, and we have to address these issues.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we end up in this chaotic state that we're currently in.
Dude, it's so crazy.
But I think with that, we promised that we'd hit the questions. I don't know how long we talked about the riots, but it would just seem ingenuous on the podcast if we didn't speak about it.
You had to say something.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough that for me and Stomp, we're not looking at this, and I don't think society should look at this as a Democrat-Republican issue. This is an American issue that we have to address, and there's there's not like a clear-cut right and wrong on each side. I understand the side of the protesters. I understand the side of the police. I don't understand or agree with the side of the vandals and the looters.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
But I get it. Like, so it's not an easy issue. But it goes back into one of the questions somebody asked. Your martial arts experience. Why? Because I have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a black belt in Hapkido, and I used to box in the 80s. And so the question was like, why, do you feel the need to have, firearms, and you train so much on the firearms? Because twice a week I'm at the range, once with my son, and another day with Stomp, and we're shooting pistols and rifles.
And getting good.
And, we do, we shoot thousands of rounds. And
yeah.
I take my wife to the range. I've taken my daughter to the range. She's 12.
We're about it.
We're shooting thousands of rounds.
Lone Star
training.
handgun.
And yeah, we here in Texas, we go to Lone Star Handgun, which is a phenomenal. It's the best gun range I've been to anywhere in the world. I love those guys. Really down to earth people, super friendly. So incidents like these, where we have as American citizens the right of the Second Amendment, to keep and bear arms, and 4 cases where like if you have to protect your family, like you want to have it, and like I never carry a pistol with me, never. But once this lockdown happened, because I'm licensed to carry here in the state, both
Sure.
open carry and concealed carry in the state of Texas, but I never carry. But once the pandemic lockdown started and people lost their jobs, crime rate went up, and bad finances is causing people to act boldly in criminal activity. And also, now you got these riots, and the police can't always be there to protect you.
And they're not going to be around the night.
And there was a case just a couple weeks ago where here in San Antonio, 3 home burglars went into somebody's house while they were there, which is incredibly bold in Texas, because most homes in Texas, they have firearms. Like,
Sure.
Texas is a very pro Second Amendment state.
Sure it is.
Maybe the most pro Second Amendment state in the entire country.
It's a beautiful thing. They
And,
like knives
yeah.
too. They like knives too.
Sure, you can walk down the street with a samurai sword if you want.
Absolutely. Or a helm.
Yeah.
Tomahawk.
And I'm all for that. So these criminals, these 3 guys, they break into the house. The family is trapped up in a bedroom, and they call 911. They're like, we can hear them moving around. We can see their shadows. Come help. And the police officers I talked to were surprised that when they arrived, those guys were still there. Like, they so boldly went into those people's houses, stealing their stuff. They had to know they was locked up in the room, because it's the quarantine. Where else is people at? They're either in their house
Or they're not.
or they're,
Yeah.
almost everybody is in their house.
Sure.
So they've made this criminal decision that they're going to rob and resort to violence if
People are crazy,
necessary,
dude.
or unnecessary. Who knows how bad it would have gone? But when the police got there, they were still there. And like, I would never, because at my house there's me and my wife, and there's my 12-year-old daughter, and of course we have 2 dogs. But I would never want to be in a position where I can't protect my family. 3 guys are in my house, and unlike the movies, even though I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, my wife is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't want me and her to go out there and confront 3 men
No way.
who may have knives, they may have guns. Even if they're unarmed, this is going to be a tough fight. 2 against 3 is going to be a tough fight. This isn't like the movies where one great martial artist is going to whip 20 people.
Nobody.
Yeah. So if I come out of my bedroom to 3 guys, I'm going to be armed, and I want to make sure that my family is safe, and it's going to be a bad outcome for them. But I'm not coming out unarmed, and we're going to have a fair fight. Like, no, like, you're in my house, this is going to go bad.
Yeah, they're lucky that they waited. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I would wait.
Right.
I mean, I'm retreating back to this room.
Right.
I have 1 gun in the main house.
Mhm.
When I leave the house, I got my level 10s and the
Right.
reinforced door jamb and the doors, and 1 dog in here
Yeah.
and 1 dog outside the door. That's how I leave the house, right? So I'm pretty sure if they have to get it, it's gonna be crazy. My neighbors never go anywhere, right? They know it. So I'm pretty like comfortable, and I even have like a 2x4 right now blocking the door in case someone wanted to run in here. So I'm sort of on the paranoid side, right? But dude, there's no fighting nobody in your house.
Yeah.
You're just gonna blast the shit out of anybody you don't know.
And
We're not talking about it. We're not finding out if you got a problem. There's no problems.
Because when it's between me and my family, like, no, it's like it's going to be a bad outcome for you. I'm going to use all my experience to make sure.
You do the training to make sure, and you keep up with the training, and you fire so much to be proficient and to understand what you're doing. And we're talking about even taking this further. We've been shooting enough. We're talking about going to training and like really paying specialists to show us how to run AK-47s in this unique manner. You know, so it's like it's you get good at the and I'm going to tie in another question. We had, how does the Hapkido and the boxing translate to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? And so you're building a web, right? So you start at the boxing, you start at the Hapkido, you understand it's something, then you discover something's better or works better. And you see them. I'm going to answer for you. You see the martial arts. So how does the knowledge and the skill base, the joints, the Hapkido stuff, go to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Do you incorporate that into yours?
Absolutely, because it's constant evolution.
That's from, by the way, Vermont Derek had that question.
And what I love about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is there's no ancestor worship. Like in Hapkido, I have a black belt in Hapkido, but the founder of Hapkido was a man named Young Sul Choi. And in Hapkido, if Young Sul Choi did a punch this way, or a kick this way, or a wrist lock this way, or a throw this way, that's how everybody in Hapkido is going to do it. And even if somebody in karate came along, or Muay Thai, and showed a better way to do a punch or a kick, or somebody in Judo is doing a better way to do a throw, it'd be like, no, this is the way Young Sul Choi did it. This is how we're going to do it. And there's no deviation. And that's how most of the Eastern martial arts are. There's ancestor worship. We're doing it exactly the way our ancestors did. The Brazilians, the beauty of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is when they learned Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, they had no ties to Japan. So there was no ancestor worship. So they were constantly coming in and saying, well, yeah, you could do it this way, but maybe if I do it a little bit different, it's more effective. And it's constantly evolved. So like,
and it was a little guy, right?
Yeah,
so
Elio Gracie
he sort of had to figure it out.
Only about maybe 135 pounds. He wasn't a very big man. And then
I was listening
one
to
of
Lance.
his sons, Holes Gracie, is probably one of the greatest innovators in Jiu-Jitsu, because you had Carlos and Elio who learned from Maeda, and then of course their sons, they had a lot of children, did a lot of innovation, but Holes Gracie was particular in his innovation. He also is the teacher of my teacher, Luis Pajares. And Holes, one time, a wrestling coach from America was coming to Brazil, and he met him at the airport. And he was coming to Brazil to teach the Brazilian Olympic wrestling team. And Holes was like, that's us. And the guy was like, I was training with Holes Gracie for a week before I realized him and his guys were not the Brazilian Olympic wrestling team.
Oh, shit.
But Holes wanted to learn more about American wrestling, and he incorporated that into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
and then
smart.
He also competed in Judo and in Sambo, which is a Russian version of Jiu-Jitsu, and he learned from those guys. And he was a real innovator. He put a lot of other arts into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which has made it such an effective martial art. And then as the years have gone by, so if you train with me, you're not just getting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you're getting some Hapkido techniques that are effective in adding into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And schools across the world are doing that, and so Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just constantly evolving. So, there may, like Elio Gracie, who was amazing, and him and his brother Carlos, there were techniques that they did in, say, the 20s, 30s, and 40s that super effective, but we've found more effective techniques today than the way they did it. So maybe it's a guard pass, or maybe it's an arm bar. And it was super effective for them, but we found a more effective way today
And then kind
in
of
2020, and
kind
that's
of
the way we
evolves.
do it. Rather than saying, well, this is the way
Has to
Elio
be
did
this
it,
way.
and
Yeah, so there's not like 6 moves you learn and that's
Yeah,
it, and
right.
then variations of this move, and then we'll call this move variation B,
Sure.
variation B2. So
It's constantly evolving.
So there's all kinds of different moves. There's no new. There's no new. Everything's new.
and so much is being
Anything can
learned,
be. Anything can happen.
just from like events like the UFC where we would watch it, and you'd be like, okay, well this isn't working. This is maybe a traditional move or a traditional sweep that we would do, and it's not working in the UFC, and then we would look and modify it. Where
Sure.
like the Gracies, man, those guys were incredible because they were doing no holds barred fights, and they were testing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the streets of Rio de Janeiro and taking all challenges, and
So crazy.
So
Yeah, the
with
Gracie-
no rules,
the
no
Gracies-
referee.
Yeah, if you
they
haven't
were
seen
fighting.
it, go look up Gracie challenge fights on YouTube. You'll
Oh
see
my
it.
gosh.
Insanity. So
And-
they fight anybody.
Right.
So
and I'm
little
so
dudes.
grateful for them because when they were opening their schools in America, there was karate guys and taekwondo guys, people from other martial arts showing up their schools wanting to fight them to prove, their art was more effective than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And those guys did those fights. Where today, like at my school, nobody shows up from, I don't have, Mr. Texas, who's a bodybuilder, showing up to my school wanting to do a challenge fight with me.
Have you ever had that at all? Ever?
No,
Never.
no.
Thank
And
God, right?
It's really because the Gracies and their students fought those fights when they first came to
for
America
everybody.
in the 90s and the early 2000s, and then with the exposure of the UFC, because before the UFC, even like as little as 10 years ago, people would be like, I don't think jiu-jitsu will work against me. And it's like, bro, some of the toughest men on the planet and women in the planet are in the UFC, and arm bars are working. Chokes
Yeah.
are working. They're being woken up.
Yeah.
Watch the fight the
Well,
other
that's
day.
it. A lot of
knee
people.
bars,
A lot of people think they can fight a lot better than they can fight.
Sure.
Everyone does. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people. I think most people think they're a little better than what they are.
because combat arts, people think, they watch TV, and they think, oh, like I can do this, and they think, oh, whether it's punching, kicking, grappling, or whether it's picking up a gun, shooting, you're like, how hard can it be? I got it. But they're perishable skills. Like if you don't go to the gun range frequently, you're not gonna shoot that well. If you don't go and train, whether it's boxing, karate, taekwondo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, if you don't train martial arts, hand-to-hand combat frequently, you're not gonna do well. Especially if you have to go against somebody that does train. Whether it's a shootout between guns or whether it's a fight between a skilled person and an unskilled person. It's like, well, I watched some movies. I used to throw haymakers back in middle school and high school. I'm in my 30s or 40s, but my haymakers are pretty effective. Against an unskilled person? Probably. Or maybe even against a skilled person if he don't see the punch coming. But chances are, it's going to be a bad outcome.
And there's levels, right? Like I can go to the range every day,
Right.
and shoot 300 rounds.
Sure.
And I can hit the little target, and I can
Right.
hit movers,
Mhm.
and all that shit.
Yeah.
And I can practice for 30 years and be Annie Oakley.
Right.
But if someone shoots at me
Things
once,
change. Right.
I'm in a brand new world
Right. Yeah.
that I've never seen before.
Sure.
And all the training and stuff maybe was going to help me in that. Hopefully it will, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're doing it.
Sure.
So the more exposure, right? So you're never going to be John Wick.
No.
I don't ever think I'm going to be John Wick.
And no human can be.
Right. But, for me, like, being good at a gun is fun.
Sure.
I like it. The idea of getting good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as I get older is very good for me.
Right.
In my mindset, because I think I could have powered through a lot of people in my younger days, and maybe not so much now at 47.
Right.
And the idea of not being able to do something at an older age kind of scary to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have to resort to a knife or a gun if something's going down. I've never had to do that before.
Right.
I've never pulled a knife out in the middle of a fight.
Mhm.
Never pulled a gun out because I was scared.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if I've had the guns, I've never pulled them out when I was scared because I was never in like gun pulling mode, man. Gun pulling mode means someone's dying, man.
Right.
So like I'm not in that mode, right? I'm not going for that gun, right? I'm not looking. But to not know how to use one is kind of fucking crazy to me. To not be familiar, to not have 5, 6, 8 AKs is odd to me. Somebody else might think that's excessive, right? But man, I'm sort of a little bit like nervous. Like I want to be able to call my neighbor, pass them out. Maybe if like 5 people had to come over, like all of a sudden you have a little faction. You know what I mean? Maybe. You know, I've been training Moose and Lou for months. They're not really good though. But in my mind,
dogs, man, like, you know, we've talked about dogs, especially on the past couple episodes. But
in nauseam, yeah, I
that,
love them.
you know, like, you've got 2 amazing dogs, Moose and Lou. You know, I've got Baylor and Panda. And what I love about dogs is they know that somebody's coming to my house before they knock on the door. Or, you know, if they're trying to do something illegal, before they come through the window or break or kick in the door, my dogs know. And my dogs, make no mistake, your dogs will fight to the death to save you. Because they're the only creature on earth that wishes better for you than they wish for themselves.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, we as humans truly don't deserve the loyalty that our dogs give us.
Beautiful creatures.
And I try to earn it every day with my dogs.
Yeah,
I freaking love them, and I know they love me, and I know there's nothing they wouldn't do for me. And you know, like when I'm asleep, you know, sometimes my wife Sway, I love her to death, but if I'm taking a nap, and like Baylor, my pit bull, is laying on me because he likes to take naps with me because he's my buddy, and she comes into the room. It doesn't matter who comes in the room. He's growling and barking. It's like, no, this is my human, and
Sure.
I'm gonna protect him. And so when you look at your whole defense plan, you know, it's like, I know guys that, you know, are big into guns, but they don't have dogs. And it's like, well, that gun's not gonna do you any good if the first time you realize an intruder is in your house,
you're asleep,
is when he's attacking you in your bed.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, you may never get to your gun.
Yeah.
And then if you don't know how to fight hand to hand, in grappling, punches and kicks, you know, what if you can't get to your gun and you're already fighting? The nice thing about your dogs is they will engage that criminal, that intruder.
Standoff distance.
And they're going to give you some time so you can get to your weapon, or so you can do your hand to hand, so you can do what you need to do. And so I have great peace of mind because one of my dogs always sleeps with me, and then the other dog always sleeps with my daughter, who's 12. And so I know, you know, like if somebody comes in, you know, like
Covered.
they're going to alert us, you know.
It's
Sometimes, you know, they alert us to a strong wind blowing outside, but maybe it wasn't a strong wind. You know, it just seems like, oh, it's just the wind scaring my dog. No, maybe there was, you know, somebody out there. I don't know for sure. You know, probably just a strong wind, but maybe. And they're going to alert me. And they know. And man, so that's my first line. You know, like when somebody comes in my house, they're going to meet my dogs, just like they're going to meet your dog.
Sure.
Like, that's the first line. And then, if that's not enough to deter them, you know, the second line is,
everything else.
yeah, you know, like what we have back here. That, you know, like if somebody's that motivated, that they're coming in,
Sure.
that they want to get past, you know, you've got a Rottweiler and a Mastiff. I've got a Pit Bull and an English Bull Terrier. Like, if you're that motivated to get past them, like,
It's gonna be an issue.
yeah, and they're gonna give us the time that we need to get it. And so, with all that said, why do I have firearms? Because sometimes hand to hand is not gonna be enough, and if it's not, I would rather be, you know, prepared and not need it than need it and not prepared.
Yeah, for me, it's a hobby. I
Sure.
shot when I was 12 for the first time. I told my mom that weekend when I got home that I was going to buy a gun when I turned 18.
Sure.
She's like, no, you're not. For 6 years, I told her, yeah, I am. And that day, by 11 o'clock that morning, I had service merchandise. I bought it, picked it out, knew what I was getting, had it at my house. Me and my buddy are looking at it. My mom's like, what is that? I'm like, that's a shotgun.
Yeah.
So I've just been, I don't know if it's like a mindset, like I've sort of always been a little bit nervous, a little bit, and I knew when I had a chance to buy one, I was going to buy one. And then it just turned into fun, man. And the more I shoot, the more I want to be good at it. And when I moved to Texas, I went from a 25-yard indoor range where I would shoot maybe once every 4 months, maybe, like just go, plank, to, I mean, you see how much we're doing it here.
Sure.
And once you get some distance and have some fun and hit that steel, and it's just a blast. And if anyone wants to go shooting with me and Sod, we go quite a bit. You can hit us up in the comments, and we can meet you at Lone Star, and we can have a fun time.
Okay.
And we had one more question.
Oh yes.
Are we gonna get? We're gonna get some charities in here, and I know
Yes.
mine is Warriors on the Way with Pastor or Father Steve Renaud, and I don't know when he's coming in, but that's the one I'm gonna be talking to, and I know you're associated with a couple.
Mm-hmm. So my favorite charities that I recommend with no hesitation, that I've seen do great things. One, my number one favorite veteran charity is the We Defy Foundation.
Okay.
I talked about it in the first week. It was set up by a man named Joey Bozick, who is a triple amputee, Iraq veteran, straight war hero, and he set this charity up. And this charity sponsors combat injured veterans that are oftentimes amputees, severely burned, sometimes PTSD issues, and pays for them to do jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
And like I've been in the Navy for 33, well, I retired a year ago, but 33 years in the Navy. And there's some veteran charities out there that I've never met one person that benefited from that charity. But for the We Defy Foundation, I have met over 30 people that people not, I heard about this guy that
You know him.
people that I personally know that have benefited from the We Defy, and it's not a huge charity,
Goodwill or something.
yeah, this is a small charity, run mostly out of Texas, with Joey and Alan Shabaro, who is a retired Green Beret, amazing fighter.
You think we can get those guys on here?
Yeah, we could try, or maybe we'd have to drive to Dallas, but maybe we can do an interview with them.
Absolutely.
They are absolutely my favorite charity, and I highly recommend them. If you're like, I'd like to help combat injured veterans, who do you recommend? We Defy Foundation.
We Defy.
Second charity, it's called Gis for GIs, and it's run by a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt by the name of Brian Crandall. Old training partner of mine, great friend. Brian, Air Force veteran, and what he does is he collects donations of gis, which are jiu-jitsu uniforms, and he distributes them for free. So he gets companies and individuals to give him gis. He distributes them to military personnel and also first responders, police, and fire departments,
Cool.
and gives them for free just so they can train. So I've had friends that are in Afghanistan, Horn of Africa, and in Iraq that wanted to do jiu-jitsu while they was deployed, and Brian sent them gis.
That's awesome.
So just an amazing charity.
That's really cool too.
Right.
That's direct to a soldier,
Yeah.
right? You can't get no better than that.
And so my second favorite charity, well, I don't even want to say first and second. I'm very biased towards We Defy. I freaking love those guys. But I got mad respect for Gis for GIs. They're amazing.
Those are the ones you're repping.
Another one is Warrior's Heart, which is right here in Texas by Bernie. And what they do is they run a rehab center for veterans who are addicted. They may have PTSD issues. They may have addictions to alcohol or to drugs. And they run that charity there. And they're amazing. I've gone there several times to train jiu-jitsu with the residents that are there. My wife Sway has gone there several times. It's wonderful people doing an amazing thing, because they're literally saving lives. Because these guys that are coming to them, may have reserted. They could have ended up homeless if they continued down this addiction line. They could have ended up, dead, suicide. There's so many bad outcomes from PTSD, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, and of course you know a lot about alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
So, it's a wonderful thing. I highly recommend them. And for a national organization, the Veterans of Foreign War, they are constantly out there helping. They've got posts around the country. A very good organization. Now, you said like, well, what would be an example of a charity that you would not support? And I think people should be very cautious about the charities that they give to. And for me, I'm unforgiving on when it comes to veterans charities. If you do something scandalous and you misappropriate some money, I'm done with you. There's no,
Sure.
oh, we're going to rehaul. So like the Wounded Warrior Project charity, you see their stickers all over the place. You see their shirts all over the place. Hats all over the place. But I don't know anybody that's ever benefited from that charity. But what I do know is they had to fire their CEO and their COO a few years ago, maybe about 3-4 years ago, for misappropriating money. And they was having these elaborate multi-million-dollar parties, you know, for the company parties.
Sounds like the NRA.
So they was having a wonderful time.
Sure.
And the CEO at that time, the one that they had to fire, he wasn't even a military veteran. He was just running the charity. And, you know, it's like they use words today, which frustrates me about modern society. They use words like misspoken instead of lied.
Sure.
Or
misappropriated
instead of stole. You know,
Yeah.
that was theft. You took millions for your parties,
Yeah.
self-enrichment that was designed for wounded warriors, and you did something else with it. You know, good-hearted Americans gave their hard-earned money because they want to help the troops. You know, that whole we support the troops.
I have.
And you did something else with
It's
that
so
money.
funny, right? Because I don't give to traditional charities much, right?
Yeah.
Like if I know, like when I met Steve, Father Steve,
Mm-hmm.
I met him at a knife show, and then we start talking knives, and then we hang out, and then we have barbecue, and he tells me about Warriors on the Way.
Right.
And I sit and listen to him for 2 hours telling me about Warriors on the Way, and then I pull $50 out and give it to him because now I know
Sure.
the dude who started
Right.
Warriors on
That's
the Way,
awesome.
right?
Right.
So I'll do it that way, but like my charity, right, is like my buddy Isaac in Africa,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We got him a passport last 6 months. You know, like he opened an account the other day.
Right.
The money I give him, he puts in the account. When we get to $2,500, we're gonna have the money to go to the embassy and try to get a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
If he shows the ability to pay for the ticket and come back, he might be able to get it.
Right.
I know this might sound crazy. I'm giving a guy money in Africa, but I've been
Trying to
talking to
make
this
the world
guy.
a better
I've been
place.
talking to him for
Yeah,
18
sure.
months,
Right.
right? Every day.
Mhm.
He's my friend now.
Right.
So when he hits the pandemic and he's telling me he can't go to work, and I shoot him $30 and he can feed his people,
Yeah.
that's fine.
That is cool.
That's exactly what I'm
Sure.
doing. So if
You
you
got a good
if you
heart.
don't know about charity, and you don't do it, and you don't want to risk it, there's always your friends. Me and my mom, some Christmases would pick a person that had a family
Right.
that we knew
That's awesome.
that was low,
Right.
and we would give them like $300-400.
That's a great thing.
And we would do that every Christmas. My mom would be like, "Who you want to do? Who you want to do?" And it would turn into like this deal.
Mhm.
And so it would be like at a home charity, right? So this doesn't have to be organized giving, but get around your life that you are going to give, because you're going to one way or the other. You're going to give good or bad.
I want to finish up on the Wounded Warrior Project.
Sorry.
Because some veterans are like, man, you're being too hard on them, Sal. And people will say that. This is the deal. Because my bachelor's degree was in business administration. And I own a business, so I understand how businesses work. If you talk to them, the Wounded Warrior Project would be like, well, we fired the CEO, we fired the COO, which is Chief Operating Officer. You know, we've reformed and we fixed the problems. Because CEOs are hired and fired by board of directors. That's how corporations are run. So when he was throwing these $1 million company parties, were no board of directors members at these parties? Or is it a whole new group of board of directors?
Of course.
And my thing is once something is poisoned, I'm just done with it. And it's sort of like if you brought out 100 jelly beans and you said, Saad, 99 of these jelly beans are going to be the best tasting jelly beans you've ever had in your whole life. But one of them in there, and I don't know which one, but one of them in there is poisonous. You're like, okay, guess what? I'm not eating one damn jelly bean.
No jelly beans.
You know, like, if only one of 100, you'd be like, well, you know, these people they told 99 truths, but yeah, one time they told a lie. But you're being awfully harsh on them. No.
What if that
It's just
jelly
like the
bean
jelly
just,
beans.
what if that jelly bean just like made you cry out of one eye for 2 minutes?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But with that money that they misappropriated for their parties,
Fuck them.
it's like,
Yeah, I don't trust. I don't trust. I
veterans-
don't trust any of them, man.
what
Like
veterans
any of
could
those
they
big,
have helped?
any of those
You know,
big,
like,
any
who
of
could
those,
they have saved?
any
Like,
of those big groups are suspect to
Yeah.
me. Like a lot of that stuff's suspect to me.
right. And especially when you talk about injured combat veterans, like, honestly, I think if you steal money from injured combat veterans, if there's a hell,
Some
there should
sort
be
of-
a special place in it for
Yeah.
you. Because we live here at Fort Sam, and so we constantly are seeing, severely injured
Sure.
soldiers. We're seeing guys who are amputees
Every
who are
day.
burned over
Oh,
majority of their
the
body.
time.
Their whole face is burned off, and it's like, oh no, you took some of that money that was supposed to go to them, and
Yeah.
you threw a good party, not just 1 year, but many years. It's like, oh no, I'm done with you. So that's my thing with the charities.
I think we got all the questions answered. Any more questions?
No, that was it.
I think
we did good for the week.
So we got the questions in this week.
Right.
It took us 3 weeks to get the questions in, but we got them.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions next week, we will be doing this again.
Sure.
And Stomp strong. Have a great day. Anything you want to end with?
Yeah, like, we're not going to talk about politics, but we will talk about issues that affect us all. And, me and Stomp are neither Republican or Democrat. We're just
Yeah,
we're just Americans.
I'll
that,
tell
like,
you, I don't like.
humans.
I haven't liked either
Right.
party for a
Yeah,
long time.
right.
I'll talk about broad politics.
Sure.
Like I
Yeah.
think there needs to be a third party.
Right.
I'm tired of this shit. No one's being nice. Let's get
Right.
some standards in.
Yeah.
Like I can talk politics like that, but I'm not gonna be dogging on nobody. I'm not gonna be pulling no sides or anything.
Yeah.
Obviously we're friendly toward what you see, what we say. We're gonna try to do something every week. We're not planning this, so whatever's coming up during the week is what's coming up.
Yeah. If you
And,
post a question, we'll talk
you
about
pose a question, we'll talk about it until we can't. Maybe
it. We'll talk about whatever issue comes up.
Yeah.
Like today was totally unplanned. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect to talk about the riots, but like.
Oh, I knew we were after.
Yeah.
I knew we were after the second day. I was like,
Sure. It's like, oh man.
after, it's a real issue, man.
Sure.
There's a big to not think there's a disparity from the get, systematic, institutionalized is crazy. To not think it's different.
Right.
So it is. It needs to be better. Everybody needs to be nice, and just because shit's bad doesn't mean you make it worse.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna go. We have a great day. Stomp strong. Enjoy yourselves.
Cool.
Much
we'll
love.
talk next week.
Next week.